In our next session this morning, we're going to talk about business planning and preparing for a post-crisis world that might look distinctively different from the world we live in today. So once again, please do ask any questions in the chat, but I'm really pleased to welcome Emily Coy from Business Doctors to talk to us.
Good morning, Dom. It's great to be here.
Yeah, morning. How are you?
I'm very, very well, thank you.
Okay, so many businesses are really worried about the current situation and whether their business can survive the next few weeks and months. What would you say to business owners now that are probably feeling quite overwhelmed at times?
Feeling overwhelmed is really natural right now, but I think my key message is don't panic, plan it. And what I mean by this is let's get a business plan in place. It's important in these times not to lose sight of the bigger picture. You may be feeling deflated, you may be feeling worried, even victimized, but instead business owners need to just shift their mindset to thinking more about resilience and what you can take control of. And you can do that by making a plan. So the key points to remember is that this is a relatively short-term challenge. Now, it may feel like this is going on forever, and it may go on for a few months yet, but in the lifespan of your business, this is relatively short-term. Also, don't lose sight of what makes your business successful. Your business was successful before because you were great at whatever it was you did, and you will be great again. And stay true to your values. You know, your customers buy from you for a reason, and those customers will come back to you once this crisis is over. I've got a quote I'd like to share with you, if that's okay. Bad companies are destroyed by crisis. Good companies survive them, and great companies are improved by them. And the point here is that making a plan, regaining control, is going to help you feel less overwhelmed and allow you to move forward.
Great. So what's the first step for the business owners out there who want to refresh a plan or maybe write a plan for the first time?
So to take back control of your business, you need to take stock of where you are right now. Have a reality check on your business. Because only when you've assessed the current situation and what you think is going to happen can you truly put a plan together. So what I'm talking about here is creating a couple of scenarios. You want to be thinking about what is the worst case scenario that could happen to your business if lockdown continues, if your business isn't able to reopen, and what's the best case scenario? And what is ultimately the impact of the COVID-19 crisis on your business? And I want you to think about 3 different areas which are relevant to all businesses. We're thinking cash, sales, and people. So in terms of cash, what's the worst case scenario in terms of the impact of lockdown on your business? You can start doing a worst case cash flow forecast and a best case. That's going to highlight the gaps. Sales, what's your worst case? What's your best case? Is there a difference in perhaps different services or products that you provide? And in terms of people, again, what's the worst case? Are you considering redundancies? Or what's the best case? So think about those different scenarios. That's going to help you make a plan.
Great. And there may be some people out there that saying, well, that's a waste of time. Everything's changing it was changing by the hour, by the day, by the week now. So what's the point of looking ahead more than a couple of weeks?
To survive a crisis, you need a battle plan. We are, in effect, in a wartime situation in terms of the effect that coronavirus is having on our businesses. So we need a battle plan. Where I would normally be working with clients doing planning for maybe the next 3 to 5 years on average, instead what we're looking at is preparing plans for the next 6 months with particular detail on sort of the next 6 to 12 weeks, and perhaps less detail as you move further out to the next 6 months. But every business needs to be putting a plan together for the next 6 months. And that's going to, again, help keep perspective on the situation. And to do that, you need to set yourself a goal at this point. What's your big vision? It could be something as straightforward as you just want your business to survive the next 6 months. If that's what your vision is, that's okay. It could be that you don't want to have to make any staff redundant. Again, that's okay. The point is thinking about, where do I want my business to be at the end of the next 6 months?
Okay, so I've got an idea, I've got a vision. What are the steps of creating that plan?
Okay, so there are 4 main steps. So you start with your vision. That's just going to be a couple of sentences saying, I want my business to survive. From your vision, we break that down into objectives. Your objectives are going to be measurable, numerical in nature. So if your vision is to survive, your objectives might be things like, I need my sales to be at a certain level, or I need my cash balance to be maintained at a certain level in order for my business to survive. So step 2, objectives. Step 3, breaking those objectives down into projects. Now these are more action-based. This is taking the objective and going, but how do I make that happen? So if you've got an objective that's a sales figure, your project is going to be, okay, how many calls do I need to make? How many online networking events do I need to attend? Or however it is that you make your sales, you're breaking that objective down into a project, which is some form of action you can take. And then the 4th and final step is taking your projects and deciding some form of timescale or target date for them, and also who's going to be responsible, particularly if you're a company with a lot of staff. So what you're doing here is you're going vision to objectives to projects, and then who's going to be responsible for it. So just breaking it down step by step into more manageable actions.
And many businesses will have created business plans in the past, whether that's to get funding or support or to just think about how they drive their business forward, but then they don't look at it again once they've got that funding. So how do you make a plan a reality? How do you make all these great ideas, this recovery plan, this how I'm going to get through this happen?
Well, a plan is just an idea unless you actually implement it. And I think a lot of people see planning as just something they do when they want to get finance. But of course, when you're doing a business plan for something like the bank, of course, you're preparing it with their needs in mind. It contains information that they want to see. So it's no surprise that when you've prepared a document for an external organisation that you then don't find it any use yourself. Now, when you plan for yourself in the way that I've described, where you're breaking it down into what you want from your business and down to the actions you need to take, it becomes a very, very different thing. It becomes a living, breathing document that you are going to look at to motivate you and drive you forward. And in these circumstances, give you some clarity, direction. But ultimately, the plan only becomes a reality if you take those actions and you actually schedule time in your diary, and you actually schedule time when you've got the right amount of energy to do those projects. So having a plan in itself, won't make it happen. You have to take those actions and schedule it into your day and into your week to drive it forward.
And at this time, if we're planning for recovery, whatever length of time that will be, but should businesses be as part of that process, planning beyond lockdown as well. So how do we come out of this recovery period, and how do we grow beyond that?
What I would say in that situation is it's really only worth putting that plan together for beyond recovery once you have a plan in place to navigate the current crisis. It's no good looking long term until you've done those immediate 6 months. So that's the absolute priority. Once you've got your plan in place for the next 6 months, which of course is not set in stone, this is flexible and will be changed and amended as you go. But once you've got that in place, then it's time to think beyond that. Now, if your business is one that's in a bit of a state of hibernation right now, then now could be a really good time to tackle some of those projects that you don't ordinarily get round to doing. For example, let's say that you've had on your to-do list to refresh your website and update it, but you've never gotten around to doing it. Now could be a really, really great time to get on with a task like that. Also, you may want to be planning that recovery when we eventually do come out of lockdown. Do you know how you're going to gradually bring your staff back to work? Start thinking about how you might do it. If you're planning a media campaign of some sort, get the ball rolling on that, get some drafts together. It's a time to reflect and reset on your business so that when we do come out of lockdown, when things do get back to normal, you can be out of the starting blocks much faster than your competitors.
Brilliant. That's a really helpful and useful introduction to business planning for us. So thank you for your time today, Emily. I can't see any specific questions on the chat, so if people have got them, feel free to send them into the team, and we'll pick them up. Not sure whether that's my chat's stopped working or whether there's no questions come through at this point. But throughout the coming weeks, we'll be running the more events. As I mentioned, the Chat with the Champions events, there'll be about interactive sessions with local businesses and support services to find out more and develop, so we can work with champions on a one-to-one basis during this period. So once again, thank you, Emily, for joining us today. That's been really, really helpful.